I was canceled. My podcast partner always says I was patient zero. I was the first one out. However, that storybook opened up. Why did we care? It was gay or straight. What I was standing up for, other than my blacklisting for taking Ellen DeGeneres to the Volcano premiere years ago, and I didn't do a studio picture for 10 years. People don't know that part of my story or what happened to me.
Heche's cause of death has been revealed days after she was removed from life support. According to the LA County Coroner's Office, the actress died from smoke inhalation and burn.
Y'all, the night Anne Heche's car exploded into flames wasn't just a Hollywood tragedy. It was the moment whispers turned into a storm nobody in Beverly Hills could silence. 90 miles per hour. A house ripped open like paper. 60 firefighters clawing through hell for 30 minutes while cameras rolled, and then that chilling footage hit the internet, and sitting up on the stretcher, fighting, reaching, like she was trying to say something the world was never meant to hear. And now the rumors won't die. Sources close to industry insiders claim Mel Gibson and Cat Williams have been privately questioning what really happened behind the scenes, hinting that Anne had secrets, names, and stories that powerful people wanted buried forever. Online forums exploded with speculation about Ellen DeGeneres, old friendships turned cold, business ties gone silent, and eerie timing that fans say feels too dark to ignore. No proof, no charges, just shadows, patterns, and a timeline that doesn't sit right with people who watched Anne's final days unfold. Friends say Anne was scared. Colleagues say she was talking. And suddenly, tragedy struck with cameras rolling and questions multiplying. Why was she alone? Why did the footage look so strange? Why did certain names start trending before the facts were even clear? Tonight, Hollywood's brightest smiles look a little more forced because the internet is demanding answers and the silence around Anne Heche's last hours is getting louder than any fire ever was.
Concerned about that, and also concerned about the driver who was identified as Anne Heche. You probably know the name from TV and...
Now here's the part the headlines barely whispered about. Just weeks before that inferno, Anne Heche had wrapped a haunting project called Girl in Room 13, a story ripped from the shadows of a $150 billion trafficking empire, a film so dark it mirrored secrets Hollywood pretends don't exist. She poured herself into that role. Friends say she was shaken by what she learned, by the people she met, by the questions she started asking, and then suddenly, she was gone before she could even sit in the theater and watch her own work unfold. The internet noticed. Fans started connecting dots. Comment sections filled with chilling theories, screenshots, and timelines that made people uneasy. Why was Anne talking about exposing uncomfortable truths right before everything fell apart? Why did insiders say she was nervous, like she'd seen something she couldn't unsee? No evidence, no confirmations, just eerie timing and whispers that refused to die. And then came the date that sent conspiracy pages into overdrive. Because the premiere of Girl in Room 13 was announced after Anne's death, like a ghost release, turning a tragedy into a mystery no one could ignore. The same film she never got to celebrate became the one everyone suddenly wanted answers about. So the question that keeps echoing through Hollywood tonight is simple, chilling, and impossible to ignore. When exactly did Girl in Room 13 premiere, and why does that date feel like more than just coincidence?
When does Girl in Room 13 premiere?
September 17th.
Okay, and so it's coming up. And that movie starred Anne Heche, which was the last movie she did before she passed away, correct?
Yeah.
Fast forward to January 30th, 2026, and the silence shattered like glass. The Department of Justice unleashed a tidal wave, over 3 million pages tied to Jeffrey Epstein, thousands of hours of footage, mountains of images, names surfacing week after week until Hollywood itself started sweating. And suddenly, voices people once mocked were echoing louder than ever. Mel Gibson, Cat Williams. Two men who had warned for years that something rotten was hiding behind red carpets and talk show smiles. But before the chaos, let's hold on to what's confirmed, because truth hits harder than rumors. On that January morning, the DOJ announced what it called the final release of Epstein-linked material: 3 million pages, 2,000 videos, 180,000 images. The drop came after the Epstein Files Transparency Act passed Congress in November 2025 and was signed into law the very next day by President Trump. Soon after, lawmakers received a 6-page briefing listing politically exposed individuals mentioned across the files: presidents, billionaires, and cultural icons whose connections sent shockwaves through the industry. Among the documented names were actor Chris Tucker, noted for a 2002 Africa flight alongside Bill Clinton and Kevin Spacey, Olympic Committee leader Casey Wasserman, described in emails exchanged with Ghislaine Maxwell, and film producer Steve Tisch, referenced hundreds of times. No charges, no verdicts, just a paper trail thick enough to haunt reputations forever, and a storm that's only beginning to break.
The Justice Department released more than 3 million documents, including photos and videos from the Epstein files. Some of these new documents are emails between convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein and New York Giants chairman.
Now listen closely, because even the Department of Justice said something people keep ignoring, being mentioned in those Epstein documents doesn't prove a crime. Only Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were charged. The files are messy, incomplete investigative material, not some confirmed client list. But when thousands of Hollywood connections start appearing across millions of pages, the same industry people already distrusted suddenly looks darker than ever, and the questions get louder. And in the middle of all those whispers stands Anne Heche, not just another actress, but someone many believe Hollywood turned on long before that fire ever ignited. Born May 25, 1969 in Aurora, Ohio, and clawed her way into the spotlight through NBC's Another World, winning a Daytime Emmy and proving she was more than a pretty face. By 1997, she was everywhere. Donnie Brasco, Volcano, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Wag the Dog, hit after hit, her star rising fast. She even landed a lead opposite Harrison Ford in 6 days, 7 nights, and insiders whispered she was about to become one of the industry's most unstoppable leading women. Then came the love story that changed everything. And fell for Ellen DeGeneres, and overnight the headlines turned vicious. The invitations stopped coming, and the same town that built her started closing its doors. Fans say that was the first crack, the moment Anne went from Hollywood's golden girl to someone the machine didn't know what to do with anymore.
I see you and Ellen DeGeneres. You guys seem to be together all the time now.
You know, it's funny how that happened. I really have no idea. We're together, you know, we're happy and everything else, but we had no idea.
People close to Anne said the blacklist lasted nearly a decade. She claimed a $10 million film deal vanished overnight. Rumors swirled that Fox wanted her cut from 6 days, 7 nights until Harrison Ford pushed back behind closed doors. Later she confessed, I didn't do a studio movie for 10 years, calling herself patient zero of cancel culture long before that phrase flooded social media. But here's where the story twists into something darker than the headlines ever admitted. For years the explanation sounded simple, almost tidy. And Heche was punished because she came out. She loved a woman. Hollywood shut its doors. Case closed. And yes, Anne said that herself for more than 20 years, on talk shows, in interviews, in raw confessions that made audiences cry. Yet insiders whisper there was more bubbling under the surface, old grudges, broken alliances, secrets traded in quiet rooms where reputations are bought and buried. Friends claimed and knew things, stories she hinted at but never fully told, like puzzle pieces scattered across decades. No proof, no confirmed claims, just a pattern that refuses to stay quiet. Because when a rising star falls that hard, that fast, people start wondering what truth was hiding behind the official story, and why Anne's silence grew louder every single year she was pushed into the shadows.
The most pivotal times in me watching your career blossom was when you were blacklisted for being honest about your sexual preference and about your relationships of love. And that carried on and followed you for years.
So I look back at that and go, wow, yeah, Gina, you asked me, how did I feel about that? Not good. It does not feel good. But what it also does is be able to give us a chance to be able to talk, the reason why we tell stories and what we're doing, why it's important to have the conversation out.
But after her death, a different conversation started. People went back and looked at the timeline, not just the Ellen relationship, the whole picture, because Anne Heche didn't just talk about being canceled. She talked about growing up in a household of abuse. She spoke openly about her father, a man she said abused her as a child, a man who died of AIDS in 1983 and who she later described as living a secret life. She wrote about it.
Her dad actually died of AIDS. And the day after he died, the New York Times declared AIDS the gay disease.
She didn't whisper about her past. She went on camera and said it out loud. Anne was one of the first major actresses in Hollywood to speak bluntly about childhood abuse inside her own family. No filters, no protection, just raw truth. And that's when the conversation shifted into something far more uncomfortable. What if Anne wasn't pushed out only because of who she loved, but because of what she was willing to reveal? Because in an industry now surrounded by millions of pages of Epstein-related investigations showing how powerful men abused power for decades, a woman publicly naming abuse, refusing silence, and choosing roles that exposed trafficking wasn't just awkward. Critics say it was dangerous. And then came Girl in Room 13, her final finished project. Not some random TV script. A deliberate, haunting story about a mother fighting to save her daughter from a trafficking pipeline running through addiction, motels, and quiet American streets. Supporters of the theory say the timing chills them. A decade locked out of studios, then her last film shines a light on the one subject Hollywood allegedly fears most. Does that prove she was silenced? No. There's no smoking gun, no whistleblower, no confirmed plot. Her fallout after Ellen was real and documented. But some believe that wasn't the whole truth. And after the Epstein files, those questions hit harder than ever. Then came August 5th, 2022. Just before 11 a.m., Anne's blue Mini Cooper crashed into a Mar Vista garage. Neighbors rushed to help, but reports say she reversed, sped off, and minutes later slammed into a home at nearly 90 miles an hour. The moment tragedy became mystery. The crash didn't just shatter metal, it unleashed an inferno so brutal it took 60 firefighters nearly half an hour to drag Anne from the wreckage. She was rushed to the hospital with burns covering her body and what doctors called catastrophic lung damage from the smoke she inhaled. By August 8th, she slipped into a coma she would never wake from. On August 11th, physicians declared her brain dead. On August 12th, at just 53 years old, Anne Heche was gone. Her organs were donated, the coroner ruled inhalation and thermal injuries, and the case was closed as an accident. But then came the footage, and nothing felt simple anymore. Television cameras captured the stretcher being loaded into the ambulance, and in that clip, a figure suddenly sits upright, fighting, moving, as if trying to speak before paramedics push her back down. The video spread like wildfire. Millions watched it in disbelief. Frame-by-frame analyses flooded social media. Within days, 4 of the top 6 TikTok results tied to Anne's name were conspiracy breakdowns questioning everything from the timeline to the silence around her final hours. No proof, no confirmed plot, just a haunting image burned into the internet forever. And in a world already shaken by Epstein revelations and Hollywood secrets, that single clip made people wonder if Anne's last moments held answers nobody was ready to hear. Millions of people watched, and the question started. Now, does this mean something sinister happened? Medical professionals have pointed out that severe burn victims can exhibit involuntary movement, pain responses, gasping from lung damage, trauma shock. The December 2022 autopsy found no illicit substances in her system at the time of the crash. These are the facts.
Autopsy and toxicology report is out in the death of actress Anne Heche. It shows Heche had cocaine in her system, but the coroner says there was no evidence of impairment by illicit substances at the time of the crash.
But here's the part people can't shake off. And was working on a film about trafficking. She died in a crash that looked chaotic and terrifying on camera. And the same industry she accused of blacklisting her was suddenly popping up in Epstein-related headlines. Each piece alone has an explanation. Accidents happen, rumors spread, files name people without charges, but stacked together, you can see why the internet started asking questions nobody in Hollywood wanted to answer. And if there's one name that always surfaces when people talk about the industry's dark corners, it's Mel Gibson. Back in 1998, Gibson sat down with British filmmaker Mike Figgis for a series called Hollywood Conversations, a quiet interview that resurfaced decades later after Sound of Freedom became a box office shock, earning over $250 million worldwide. Gibson didn't direct or produce that film, but he loudly supported its message about rescuing children from trafficking networks, and suddenly old clips of him started trending again. Conspiracy channels claimed that 1998 interview proved Gibson had exposed child trafficking in Hollywood years ago. Fact-checkers from outlets like Snopes, PolitiFact, and Newsweek reviewed the tape and found it had been edited, rearranged, and layered with dramatic music by unknown creators. Gibson seemed to be talking about Hollywood exploiting actors, not trafficking specifically. Still, another claim kept circulating. In 2022, Tim Ballard of Operation Underground Railroad said Gibson contacted him during the Ukraine crisis with tips about children at risk, and they allegedly worked together to disrupt what Ballard called an international ring. A story that only deepened the mystery.
Mel Gibson, he actually did the final edit of The Sound of Freedom. That's how we know each other, but not well enough that I'd be getting phone calls. They told me that he was in Budapest at the time. This was right hours after the...
Gibson's publicist later denied he was producing any secret documentary, but Tim Ballard never walked back his claim that Gibson had personally reached out with intelligence about children at risk. That detail stuck. Because people noticed something chilling, the same industry and said froze her out had also tried to push Mel Gibson to the margins after his own scandals, and yet both of them, in very different ways, kept pointing at what they believed was a darker sickness hiding beneath Hollywood's glitter. And then came Cat Williams. The moment that lit the internet on fire. January 3rd, 2024. Williams sat across from Shannon Sharpe on Club Shay Shay for nearly 3 explosive hours that racked up more than 80 million views. He didn't ease in. He detonated. He mocked powerful names, joked about secret flights, claimed he'd been collecting information on the industry for 30 years, and warned that major predators would soon be exposed. No proof, no charges, just a comedian dropping grenades of accusation that echoed through social media for weeks. And then he said 5 words that haunted the timeline like a prophecy: all eyes will be exposed in 2024. Fans clipped it. Critics mocked it. Hollywood pretended not to hear it. But after the Epstein document releases, after Anne Heche's tragedy, after old interviews resurfaced and whispers grew louder, those words started sounding less like a joke and more like a countdown nobody could stop.
Election hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is. TG Jakes, any of them. All lies will be exposed. That's all.
A month later, Diddy was arrested. The same Diddy whose parties Williams had been warning about for years. Williams had said on the podcast, "Even if I'm at the Diddy party, I'm there to tell. I'm there to see who's in here and what do y'all get from being here." In May 2024, Williams dropped his Netflix special, Woke Folk, where he continued naming names. Jamie Foxx, Oprah, industry gatekeepers. He told the crowd, "I don't just tell black secrets, I tell white secrets too, because we're all family."
I don't want to name no names. I'm just saying. Jamie Foxx is a powerful motherfucker. Do you hear me? That nigga say some shit.
Williams' credibility with this crowd exploded because he had hinted at the Diddy storm before it hit the headlines. So when he talks about Hollywood crushing voices that get too close to ugly truths, and people remember Anne Heche, an actress finishing a film about trafficking before dying weeks before its premiere, the connection feels chilling to them. Not because Williams named her, but because the pattern he described seems to echo in her story. So here's where the narrative stands. And spent years sidelined after her relationship with Ellen made her a target. She fought her way back, and one of her final choices was starring in a movie exposing trafficking horrors. 5 weeks before it aired, she died in a crash so disturbing on camera that conspiracy videos flooded social media overnight. Mel Gibson spent decades warning about Hollywood's shadows. Cat Williams went on one of the biggest podcasts ever and predicted secrets would surface. Then millions of Epstein documents were released with famous names scattered through the pages. Does any of that prove and was silenced? No. The coroner ruled it an accident. Doctors explained the stretcher footage. Girl in Room 13 was a fictional film, not an exposé. But the questions keep coming, not because there's proof of crime, but because the coincidences feel heavy. A woman speaking about abuse, an industry facing scandals, voices claiming darkness behind the scenes. Maybe it's coincidence. Maybe it's tragedy. Maybe Hollywood is just a brutal place where careers and lives collapse without warning. But in a world still reading those Epstein files, the questions won't disappear anytime soon.